Alright, hello everyone. We're here for DD4 City Section. Some alliance mates of mine were wanting to see how I one-shot these things. So we're gonna go in here. Pretty easy team here, a little bit of old meta with 3 of the symbiotes plus cloak and dagger. I like to just kind of move a few things around here. Cloak is rather dodgy, so you can put him in the center. Dagger helps give him more evades as well. And then another extra tip here, because the AI tends to like to target Scream or Anti-Venom, you want to kind of keep them separated. So you can put SSM there as a buffer, and Scream here. This is kind of the setup I use. Works for me. Now we're going to go in. A little bit of loading here. So one of the major things here is you just kind of want to manage your cooldowns, as well as kind of get rid of the threats that you have. The only real threat we have this wave, in my opinion, would be Mordo. If he can get his heal block off, it's really troublesome to all of our drain and regenerations. Other than that, we can kind of deal with a little bit of stuff from hand archers and Proxima and Glaive up over there. So I'm just going to give a quick stun to Mordo. I'm going to save most of my cooldowns and just kind of work on the characters that are a problem here. Now you could use one of the ultimates of Cloak or Dagger here. You don't really have to in this earlier lane. So I tend to just like getting damage out. You can see he's pretty much almost done with already. One more attack here from the Cloak Dagger stuff should take him on out. And see, like I was saying, the other ones aren't too bad. We're taking a little bit of damage here, but like I was saying before, you don't got to worry about it too much, because you got all these regenerations and drain to where you're just going to heal basically all of it back up and not really have an issue. Now here, because they do have the counters up, I do like using Cloak Salt here. Now we got all of these negative effects out. Just going to kind of manage your cooldowns here. Keep your effects. I like taking out Nobu here as my next priority. Work on through him. Now I know from experience that this amount of bleeds is going to get him down pretty close to red or kill him. So I'm going to do one more chain, and I know that he's going to die here, so I don't need to worry about it, and he's about to take a turn. So when he takes his turn, he's going to pretty much die on his own. So I'm actually going to go over here to the other side and chain that way with SSM. Get damage on the other characters. Again, saving my important cooldowns. I don't need to use anything that I don't have to. And if I'm getting through the nodes here just fine, I don't really have to waste anything. It's more about the strategy than it is rushing through it. We're not on a timer, we just gotta kind of play. So again, same as Nobu, this guy's gonna die off on his own. We're gonna go over here to the other hand archer, get a little bit of damage on him. See, Nobu died there just like I said. Now we attack out that hand archer. So he's still gonna die, so we're gonna go over here to Proxima. Now she's in that same range, she dies. Go over to Glaive. He's down. Next wave, we got the Black Widow, Quake, Miles wave here. Main targets to be an issue here are Squirrel Girl first, then Miles for his disrupts. Again, we want to play off of our positives and manage their negatives. Black Widow, all she does is speed them up, but if we have them controlled, then we don't really need to worry about them. So we're going to go over here to this side, start up on that Squirrel Girl. So we got a lot of bleeds on her already, but we're actually going to go over here with the cloak move here. The offense down plus his passive is going to slow her down. So we're going to be able to delay her speed up to the team, as well as get her some damage going. Now, Scream is very important with her ultimate here. We're going to go here on shield security and take down these turn meters from her move here. It's going to apply disrupt onto the shield security so he can't gain taunt, as well as reduce their speed bar. So we want to try and maintain control of the waves, nothing get out of hand. Now that we have all these negative effects over here, we can extend those with Symbiote Spider-Man. Don't have too much we need to worry about. I just want to make sure that when Squirrel Girl does take her turn that she'll die. So you got to kind of keep track of, and kind of from experience know how much damage your bleed's going to do here. So we know that I have, you know, a good amount of bleeds here. I know it doesn't kill her because she has a rather large health pool. But, yeah, you just kind of learn as you go. Dagger does a ton of damage though too. So now we're over here. Miles is our next threat. And again, Scream is important here. This can chain to the stealth unit. So Black Widow can still be hit here. And it'll actually pull her out of stealth, or if not, kill her. We're not really worried about any of these units here. And ideally, you would want to save the moves from Anti-Venom here, because you want to make sure you have them for the next nodes. But we still have our priority on Miles here. We know that with all the negatives over there on Squirrel Girl that she'll die when she takes her turn. Another nice thing about this setup for this team is there's a lot of nice synergies within it. So we have the debuff control from Cloak and Dagger, and that gets extended by Symbiote Spider-Man. The just amount of debuffs that are thrown around by Cloak, Dagger, and the symbiotes in general is massive. And Anti-Venom can take a good chunk of those for himself and spread it to the other three, and then a lesser amount to Cloak and Dagger. So I know that she's going to be pretty close to dying here on her turn, so I'm going to go over here to the other two. Just kind of spreading out and taking my time here a little bit more, because I know my guys are going to regen and not really have too much of a problem. I just want to make sure I get some of these cooldowns back. So by taking a little bit longer to get through these enemies, I'm going to make sure I have those cooldowns ready to go for the next node. See here, 1 turn, 2 turns. So we want to make sure that we layer our crowd control in a way to where not too much of it is on at any one time. And so that way we have some to use whenever we need it. So that was easy one-shot first node. Most people shouldn't have too much trouble with that. The second node does get a little bit harder, as some of the enemies here are a little more dodgy in the case of Vision, or hit a lot harder in the case of Namor and Gamora. And then they have a lot of annoying tank and control effects on them. Some good cleansers that you gotta watch out for, some healers with deflex. A little bit of nuance in here, but again, we just manage the waves as we go, and it's not too much of a problem. So here we are for the second node, starting in, telling us that the Namor, Hawkeye, and Vision will be improved. So one thing that does happen quite a bit is the enemy team will typically come out on your support characters, or sometimes Scream because he's a little bit lower. You notice they came in and chunked my dagger quite a bit. I'm not too worried about it because of all these regens from her passive. So you just gotta manage those things. So again here, saving our cooldowns properly, I have the ultimate of SSM to lock down Vision here. We're just gonna do that. And now again, we have our cooldowns ready. We're gonna start working on the enemy team here. Use Cloak's ultimate, get a lot of those negative effects down. Now, because they have all these negative effects, you don't need to use the special here from Scream. You can just throw in a basic, start getting the bleeds going. And here, this is actually, because the node's a little bit harder, a fantastic time to grab a bunch of positive effects with Antivenom. So now we're going to just be loaded up with these positive effects. And because of the negative effects over here on the enemy team, they're not going to really be able to do too much to us here. So we're able to just coast through them. Now I like to save a bunch of my stuff here, and one of the main issues here for us is actually Vision because of his ability block. So we want to make sure we can try and get him off the field as quickly as we can while maintaining our cooldowns for everyone else. So here we have all of these negative effects. This is that synergy I mentioned earlier. So we're actually going to go to Groot here so it hits all of these enemies on this whole side here. We're not going to be able to extend on Gamora or Spider-Man, but the rest of these, extending all those, is going to be fantastic. So now here, we see their turn meters. We're going to go here to Hawkeye, so that way we hit all the ones that have a lot of the turn meter. And use Scream's ultimate here. We're going to knock them all the way down. So now at this point, we can just basic, get our cooldowns back. Wave is under control. We don't really have to worry about anything. Just spreading my damage out. A lot of these bleeds are going to do a lot of the damage for us here. Another nice thing is Cloak does have a % damage at the end of his turns from his passive here. So if you actually look at there at the top of the Dark Force Conduit, 50% chance to steal 5% of health. But if Dagger is an ally, it's always going to steal 5% health from the most injured enemy and all of the adjacents. So in this case, it's going to be everyone around Vision. Keep putting damage on Namor. Get some damage on the dodgy yo-yo with the unblockable anti-venom attacks here. Put down a lot of bleeds as well. So here, a lot of people would want to just slam on one of these two abilities of her special or her ultimate. But you actually want to, like I'm saying, save your cooldowns for when you need them. We have all of these negative effects on them still. We don't have to worry about it. So we're going to just go here on Groot, put a little bit of damage on him with the double tap combo here. And now you see them starting to drop to the bleeds. This team puts a lot of bleeds out. So all you got to do is kind of let the negative effects do the work for you. Going to be a little slow going, but you'll eventually get through it just easily. So now you see, like I'm saying, those bleeds are starting to just drop them down, and they're just dying. So we know Spider-Man is going to be pretty close to dying with all these bleeds, so we're going to go over here to Yo-Yo. Now Yo-Yo's down. Gonna take out Namor. And then you've seen the other character there died because of the Dark Conduit passive on Cloak. Again, we're just basic attacking here because we want to save our cooldowns. This wave can be a little bit tricky. You have double Cable, who are always going to slow you down, and then Rescue, who's always going to be clearing and putting up barrier. So our first and primary target here is Rescue. And Cable's always going to perform their special, so they're always going to try and slow you down. So you want to keep the Cables blinded and take out Rescue as quickly as you can. So this is where, again, saving my passives, taking my time, I have this immediately. So now we can put a lot of those negative effects out. We got our blinds up onto the 2 units we need them on, so we're going to go ahead and extend them while also putting damage down on Rescue, because we want to make sure that Rescue goes down as quickly as we can get her down. And then because we're attacking Rescue here, our Dark Conduit hit basically everyone on the enemy team, exactly what we want. Cloak did take a bit of damage there from the Captain Marvel, but we're not too worried about that because he will heal up fairly quickly. And this is another example why we're just going to take a bunch of these negative effects and put them into positives on our team. So we got a little bit of that lucky regen and defense up onto our dagger here and Cloak. So we can now put some little bit of damage up over here. Now because our Cloak is low, our Paquette here on dagger can actually heal for 20%. So we can make sure that dagger can heal up Cloak, he won't go down. And because of the Striker Skirmisher combo on Cloak and Dagger, we're able to still get a bunch of damage off and not worry about him going down. So now we're going to work on the next threat, Captain Marvel, because our other 2 threats are falling on their own. What I like to do here at this stage is try and keep Scarlet Witch from doing her nonsense and debuffs and health redistribution and all that nonsense. And then again, that turn rewind, and just like with the shield security, Scream, we're going to use her disrupt to make sure that Rhino doesn't taunt on us. And go back to our main target of Captain Marvel. She's the main threat. Everyone else is neutralized or going to be dealt with because of the negative effects. We're going to extend all of this negative stuff over here. So now this whole side is done. We don't really have to worry about them. Now we can work on Graviton because I don't like facing Graviton. He's annoying. He does a lot of things we don't like. His stuns, his slows. Again, saving our abilities that we don't have to waste. We know that he's going to go down with all these bleeds, so we're going to move over to Rhino. You also want to be a little bit careful with how you use your negative effects with Rhino, because if you land that RNG blind on him, he will cleanse the people near him, and you really don't want that to happen. So now we're just working on the characters that have the higher health pools. while also making sure that the people who are going to be taking turns, keep paying attention to the turn meters, are going to be debuffed to where they can't really hurt us too much. So you see they're just falling to the negative effects and just kind of biding your time, letting yourself work through the units as you go. Now we know that this whole side's gonna pretty much die on their own. Now we can go over here to Scarlet Witch. Alright, now we're about halfway through this wave here, or node rather. So Spider-Man, he's going to always do a special and ultimate. He's not too much of a problem. But the Ebony Maw, always doing his special, is going to be a problem. So what we're going to want to do, especially since he starts off with the immunity here, is we want to make sure that we put as much negative effects on everyone else that we can. And then we're going to be focusing down Ebony Maw after we have all these negative effects down. Spider-Man is dodgy, so we want to use the Anti-Venom basic that cannot be dodged to make sure we can get a bunch of negative effects down on him, and it helps us to ensure that he gets a ton of bleeds. So then we just pay attention to who's going to be taking their turn next. In this case, it'll be Graviton, so we're going to put some bunch of damage on him. And just like with before, we're going to extend all the negative stuff we can with SSM. Try and get all that stuff to stick. Now we're just going to chain around, have a bunch of bleeds everywhere we can get them. So again, another nice little tip here. You look for whoever has the most negative effects on them. So this Killmonger over here has a decent amount, or you can even go here onto this Graviton. There's a useful chart on msf.gg that'll tell you what negative effects will be flipped to positive effects and vice versa. So in this case, from experience, I know that it's better actually to go over here to the Killmonger to get the flip from the blind, which will end up becoming stealth and offense up. So over here, we would have just gotten speed up, and it's better to have the other things, in my opinion. We're just going to spread out our bleeds here. So this is where things get a little bit tricky. We actually want Ebony Maw to take another turn, but we want to also make sure that when he does that, because we know he's going to use his special, we want to make sure that these guys can't really do much with it. So we're going to kind of look around. All of them have offense down. Some of them have blind. So we don't really have to worry about them really being able to retaliate that much, or for them to be doing that much damage. So we want to just make sure that we let Ebony Maw take his turn here. We don't waste anything. And now that he's taken his turn, that last immunity has dropped off. So now what we can do is start focusing down the Ebony Maw. And we want to just kind of let the rest of them be, because we want to get rid of the entire wave at around the same time, so we don't have you know, too many new units drop in like what just happened. So now we want to just make sure that we take Captain Marvel out of the fight with the ultimate here, because we don't want her to one-shot people, and if your units are a little bit smaller than mine, you don't want to get just obliterated by her. And then, again, utilizing this turn rewind and disrupt on Scream, take that entire side down on their speed. So now we just want to make sure we take Rescue out before she can start doing her cleansing and barriers and other nonsense. We're going to start saving our cooldowns now, work on them with basics. Don't really have to worry about too much at this stage. Now we can just kind of let this right side die on its own. Now we can turn over here to the Captain Marvel, because the stun is off. Now we just kind of work through the side here. You see, from experience, I'm going to attack one more time and then she'll go down when she takes her turn. So now we can focus on the cable. The next wave will drop once we have them down. So we want to make sure we got our cooldowns back. This whole thing is about managing the cooldowns more so than anything else. Just kind of go back and forth here, because once they both drop, we'll get the last wave of the node. And so this wave, we have the Scarlet Witch, who will always be throwing out her debuffs, and the Graviton, who will always be doing his slowdown and extension. So what we're going to want to do here is start putting damage down on the Scarlet Witch. And this is where we use the cloak. So we want to get blind onto Scarlet Witch like we did. So looks good. Now we don't have to waste hers. We can save it. Gonna get a little bit more damage down onto the Scarlet Witch, as well as all those bleeds. So that way she'll be able to go down pretty easily when we do attack her. We're gonna actually go over here and extend on this bigger cluster with SSM's special here. And then we're gonna go back to our main target, Scarlet Witch, get enough on her that when she goes to take her turn, she will die. Now I like using Scream's ultimate on a large group, and because of Rhino being here, this makes it worth it, because we want to make sure that he keeps that disrupt. So we're just keeping this side slowed down and controlled. I'm going to go back over here, and then at this stage the wave is basically under control. Vision and Spider-Man aren't really threats. You don't really have to worry about this side now that they're so bogged down by control. So now we just slowly work on the node. We want to get all of our cooldowns back, so that way when we go into the last node, we don't have any worries about anything. Start spreading some damage out over here. I mean, technically speaking, you could just turn on auto basic, but what's the fun in that, right? I'm not too worried about Dagger or Cloak taking a little bit of damage here, because they will heal it up with their start of turn regeneration when we spawn into the next fight. So we don't really have to worry about that too much, as well as the fact that the basic of Dagger will throw regens out, as will Anti-Venom's attack also heal. So we don't have to worry about taking small amounts of damage at the end stages of these waves. It's more about managing the major threats at the beginning, so that way you don't lose any members, and you can kind of just coast through the rest of it. So like you're seeing here, by the time we're done with this fight, Dagger, or Cloak rather, is going to be pretty much topped off. And then we don't gotta worry about healing them up or using any of your Dark Dimension heal packs or anything like that. Easy one-shot second node of the city section here. So now we're going to be going into the last city node, the one that gives the most people the trouble, node 12, the notorious evil DD4 node 12. And again here, like I'm saying, you know, our team isn't really too super big here. It's a little bit of a higher number than what some might have, because my stars on like Cloak and Dagger, they're pretty decent here at 5 and 5. You know, but basically anyone can have a 4 red, 5 yellow anti-venom. You know, hopefully most people have a decent Symbiote Spider-Man. He's an important Dark Dimension character. My screen is a little bit bigger than some might be. You can do this with a much smaller screen. The first couple times I went through, she was probably only around 100k. You know, around... because she was, you know, probably like 4 red star or so at the time. But let's start our node to get in there. Alright, so this tells us Rocket Raccoon. He's going to always do his big blast. Star-Lord is always going to do his energy battery and blind nonsense. JJ is always going to be doing her big slam and special clear. So this here is what a lot of people worry about, this initial entry salvo. So you just have to essentially kind of restart the node if any of your 2 die here. But again, like I was saying, they tend to attack these 2. I'm able to survive the entry salvo here, which is really nice. So now what you want to do is look at the speed meters. We know that Star-Lord is going to be the next one to take the turn, and we really don't want his ult coming off, so we're going to stun him, put some slows down on everyone else. Notice Scream healed right up. Now what we're going to want to do is focus on Jessica Jones. We do not want her cleansing, so we're going to put our Cloak batteries out. Boom, get all that out there. Here we're just going to throw a basic, put some damage out on Jessica, do a quick scan, see who has the most negative effects we could take, or the ones that are most advantageous. The ones off of Jessica are fine here. We also want to try and stay on her if we can, so that way we can get the damage onto her. Now, unfortunately, she will be able to get a turn of cleansing here, which is why we did not use the ultimate on Dagger. And so here we're just gonna try and work them on a little bit more with our abilities here. Now, this is an important stage right here. This side all took their turns. This side is getting ready to take theirs. We also do not want Captain America to taunt us. So the Scream ultimate here is going to ensure that he has the disrupt, as well as take their turn meter down to where they will not be able to take their turn. So here, I'm going to actually put some negative effects down onto the Captain Marvel and slow her down some. Over here, turn meter for Star-Lord's coming up, so we have the special on Cloak to slow him down. And so now, this taunt doesn't really matter. We want this ultimate down. We're going to get a bunch more negative effects down, start getting through their abilities. Just going to basic here because we don't have the extension part we want. We want to try and chain over to JJ or take out these other ones that we can. So the skirmisher there was really important for taking out that taunt. So now we keep on working on Jessica. We want her to go down because we do not want her to clear the negative effects off of what we've been doing. So I'm actually going to go over here and extend on that side to keep them to be irrelevant, and then we're going to go back to Jessica. Going to be able to take her out here. Then we can ignore the left side because of all those negative effects. However, we see that Rocket doesn't have offense down, so I'm actually going to chain offense down on that side, so that way when they do take their turn, they're going to have the offense down. And then that was our window because we knew that she was going to taunt. So now we can just kind of work through the taunt here on Miss Marvel. Then we also want to chain and take out Punisher here too, because he's actually a very scary damage dealer for us. One common mistake a lot of people have is they will actually start off attacking the Captain Marvel, which is why I went a little bit slower through the beginning there on how to get through this. So there's, again, a lot of bleeds here. We don't got to worry about it. So now we can focus on the Captain Marvel. I'll go over there and work on her. And we're going to have to be coming back over here anyway because of her always taunting. So again, if I did not throw those offense downs over on this side, our Cloak would have died there. So it's very important to pay attention to your negative effects from this team and ensure that you're not going to be blindsided by when the enemies are able to get their turn. But by being diligent and making sure you have your control in the right places, you can get through this node really easy. So at this point, you just kind of work them down, get your cooldowns back. You see we're all really healthy now. We started off not in a great spot, but with a little bit of patience, a little bit of proper ability placement, you work through it quite well. And see, when Cloak takes his turn, he's going to be back to topped off going into this next wave. So now we have this next wave here. Not really too much. Sabretooth really isn't there. That's just a visual bug that happens with these old Dark Dimensions. So Shield Trooper is always going to be doing his damage shot, so if we keep him blinded, he's not a problem. Iron Man's going to be doing his Unibeam and other nonsense. So This wave is a little tricky, but if you kind of work through it, you're not going to have too much of a problem. We want to make sure we take out our priority targets like normal. This is going to be our rescue, and then maintaining the damage threats. So rescue has a lot of negative effects already. We want to make sure that Star-Lord doesn't give extra energy to rescue, so we're going to keep him stunned. We're going to go with the Scream ult here onto this side with the turn meter rewind and the disrupt and slow. And then now we want to hope for getting blinds in the right spot, and make sure that we get a little bit of extra damage onto rescue with the striker skirmisher combo there. And we got basically everything we wanted out of that. So now we're going to take out rescue so she can't cleanse. Going to go to X23 for all of our extension because of all the adjacent. So this entire left side really is bogged down with all of those negative effects. So what we're going to do now is focus on Shield Trooper because he's the next highest damage threat. I know a lot of people are going to be like, well, why not Iron Man? Well, again, he's super bogged down with negative effects, and believe it or not, Trooper actually has a really high damage stat. And you see that the shield security kept trying to taunt there, but couldn't because of the disrupt. So Shield Trooper's dead now. What we're going to do is put a little bit more damage over here on security. Now he's going to go down pretty soon. A little bit more damage there. There you go. You see, Iron Man didn't really do anything to us. So this here is when a lot of people have a lot of trouble with Emma. So again, we don't have to worry about this left side right now because it's pretty much taken care of. So what we want to do is put as much onto the Emma as we can right now without wasting too much. So we want to try like getting as many bleeds onto her as possible. Again, we're going to extend everything over here with Symbiote Spider-Man. Now, that is, for some people, a little bit of a gamble, because once Emma takes her turn, she can clear all of that. But with the way that we work through this here, with the specific targeting, usually it's not too much of a problem. But if she does get a cleanse off, it's not an issue, because now we have our stuff saved again. But because we get Symbiote Spider-Man, we can... Oh, she resisted the stun. That's okay. Because we're getting enough damage down on her that hopefully she's not going to be a problem. See, she goes right down. Not an issue. Our next targets are these two symbiotes here. You go on to Scream. She has a little bit of a higher damage stat. And we did lose Cloak there. It's a little bit of a problem. Might interfere with this being a one-shot vid. Unfortunately, sometimes that does happen. However, most of the annoyance of the node is gone through at this stage. Dagger is still a very good unit on her own alongside these three symbiotes. And see, this is why we wanted to take care of Scream. She's getting those disrupts and stuff on us. See, does this clear? I don't remember if this clears. Clears heal block only. Alright. So we're just going to basic here, because it's not going to be too much of a help for us. And this is where we use Paquette, because it's actually going to heal us up a little bit more. So we're just going to chain around, take out the people. Here's our drop down again. It's going to pretty much take out that whole left side. Going to go on to the Symbiote Spider-Man now. He's our next threat. We're going to actually take a bunch of negatives, turn them into positives because our disrupts are gone. Go into here onto the Symbiote Spider-Man. Down to 12. So this last wave might be a little bit harder than it would normally be because we don't have Cloak. But I mean, even if this becomes a 2-tap instead of a 1-tap, that really isn't the end of the world. The point here is to just show you how to work through the nodes easier rather than to kind of stress it and worry about it. Now this node is, you know, at this stage here, most of the way done. We've only went in with 1 attack, and it's a very, very solid attack at that. Typically I do get the 1-shot off here, but it might not be that way this time because we did lose Cloak. But we can certainly give it our best effort. We're actually going to go on to the Miss Marvel here because we want to get the disrupt onto her and Cap. It's still going to slow down our primary target of Jessica Jones here. We're not worrying too much about Black Bolt because he's slow. He's going to take a while to take his turn. But we just want to make sure we get our disrupts onto this side over here like we did. Now, we know that if Captain Marvel takes her turn, she's going to hit hard. However, as long as we got AV, we can survive with one of the other two here and revive them. Dagger does have evade here, so we don't got to worry about her too much. But we want to just extend these negatives over here. We want to make sure they don't taunt and chain taunt on us. So now we can focus our efforts back onto Captain Marvel. She's the major damage threat that we got to worry about. And we lost AV. That's probably the worst case scenario. But you can kind of see the thought process still here. We get these guys to where they can't taunt. And then now we get the offense down onto the targets that matter. And now we can stun Captain Marvel. Gonna try our best with what we have left over here. Yeah, once you start losing characters, they kind of all start dropping down pretty harshly. At this stage, because we did end up kind of failing this attack, we're just going to get a little bit more damage off onto the Captain Marvel before they inevitably kill our Symbiote Spider-Man here. But this is going to be an easy 2-tap here. RNG got us a little bit into a bad spin there, but we got through majority of that node. You see here 42 million down to 11 million. Got through the majority, but the last wave, a solid first attack, 34.66 million. You see here I've only been on this run of Dark Dimension for, you know, a little over 3 days, and be honest with you, most of these nodes here up until City, I've kind of just been playing full auto one-shots with various ridiculous teams here. You know, I'm not really hurting on a lot of these sections anymore. Did get bogged down on the global section a little bit because I chose to just play full auto instead of actually playing through it. Yeah, having my fun. You see here, Cosmic, super easy, all one-shots. You know, the Eternals are just kind of bonkers. Deathpool, Kestrel, really strong units. I had my choice of Silver Surfer, Phyla-Vell, Bishop. Just kind of threw Surfer in because I wanted to use them again. And like we did here, quick recap. Easy one tap on the first node with this team. Easy one tap on the second node. And then a most of the way one tap with an easy setup for cleanup going in on the next day or two. At most, this should take you 3 days using this kind of setup. And then the legendary grind, you know, I'll probably be clocking in around 10 days if I try hard through the legendary section. Maybe it might take me 15 days to do a run of Dark Dimension 4 at this stage with my roster. But yeah, hope this was a little bit of help to the Alliance mates and whomever else may try and stumble across this video in the future. Yeah.